Hi, I'm Kathryn Colleen, and we're going to be talking about what the stages mean for society. This is actually one of my favorite subjects right now. A lot of people will ask me, you're working for global peace. Why do you bother? I mean, look at humanity. Humanity is a mess. No, we're not. We're not a mess at all. We are right on schedule. And let me tell you, global peace is not just possible, it's incredibly likely, and more than that, is happening, and we're ahead of schedule in terms of our efforts. So let me explain. So you have these 11 stages that each of us individually evolves through over the course of our lives. And we loop back around and repeat some of them, usually because we haven't quite finished the tasks that we need to do in that stage. And this is how we go about our lives, popping between stages, doing the tasks necessary in those stages to go to the next stage, leaving some out and getting dragged back to that stage again to finish the work. And societies, whether it's a town or a whole country or the entirety of humanity, evolves along these same stages. Why? Because what is a country but a collection of individuals? What is humanity but just at this moment 8.5 billion individuals? And so at any one moment in time, if you were to plot a country or the entirety of humanity or even just a town, it would look like a normal curve. That crazy thing you heard about in high school. But anything humans do ends up plotting on a normal curve. So to geek out a little bit, the middle of the normal curve is sort of where you have the most people, but you still have quite a few people in the flanking stages. So to give you an example, I'll pick on the United States because I'm American, so I can do that. And we're coming into an election year as I'm filming this, and that really causes us all to flip into stage 5, which is I am my ideology. And so over the course of the election year, more and more people will pile into stage 5, I am my ideology, and that will be the peak of our normal curve. You'll still have a bunch of people in stage 4, which is other people have needs too, and you'll have a bunch of people in stage 6, which is live and let live. Now, when it comes to societies, events like elections can pull people into stage 5, so they identify with their ideology. Makes sense, right? Wars will pull people back into stage 5, but more often back into stage 3. If you're watching a war that's happening somewhere else, you will tend to get pulled into stage 5 as you associate your preferences with one side or the other. If you are experiencing a war where you live, this is automatic stage 3. I am my needs. You're just trying to survive. Food, clothing, shelter, basic survival. Makes sense, right? So over the course of time, you can watch as that spike in the normal curve moves. And if you plot it for the entirety of humanity, which I am geeky enough to have done, you're going to see that it has moved from 40,000 years ago, being much more towards 1, 2, 3, just trying to maintain needs, to, let's pick on the US right now, mostly stage 5. The middle of that normal curve would be about a stage 5. Now, over time, this has not been a smooth transition, right? We have not gone smoothly from stage 3 to stage 4 to stage 5. Every time we make it, we go 2 steps forward and we go 1 step back, and we go 2 steps forward and we go 1 step back. And what's pulling us back is typically war. Large-scale wars. Why? Because large-scale war is going to pull you back. If you're involved, it's going to pull you back to stage 3. And then you've got to work your way forward again. So it's been a hard-fought evolution to get to this point where this particular country is on most days, most people are in stage 5. And we look at that and it looks like it's falling apart because stage 5, you're offended all the time, you're angry. When you read a headline, you get all triggered about it. Why? Because you're identified with your ideology, your political ideology or your religious ideology or your social ideology or both, some combination of everything. Your entire belief set. You're so identified with it that when you read a headline that threatens it, it's you who is threatened. It is a direct threat to you. And that's why you feel offended. That's why you feel angry. Right? Because if somebody was threatening you, you'd be upset. Well, that's what happens when somebody says something that's against your ideology and you are in stage 5 because you're so identified with your ideology. That is you. It literally is you. So it looks like you've got a country full of people who are running around divisive and angry and offended and wagging their fingers at each other and telling each other how horrible they are. And you go, oh my God, we're so divided. We've never been so divided. No, we've never been so stage 5. Good. Good. Because the next stage is stage 6. And stage 6 is live and let live. It is a beautiful place to be. There's a bunch of people who are already there. In fact, there'll be people who are in higher number stages as well. Stage 7, stage 8, 9, 10, 11. And you've got plenty of people who are further down the chain as well. Now, the smaller numbers are not lesser. These are all equally important stages. But some stages are more enjoyable than others. Some stages are more peaceful than others. Some stages are more fun than others. Each stage has its own flavor. So the fact that the U.S. is largely in stage 5 right now, I actually see it as good news because the inevitable is, if we don't get into large-scale war, which would drag us back to 3, the inevitability would be that we will pop over to where the majority of Americans are in stage 6, live and let live. And that is a really, really beautiful place to be. That's enough for this video. In a later video, we'll get into questions of, well, what happens when everybody hits stage 7? Yikes! That's going to be an interesting one. If you want to know more about the stages, get the big book, Purna Asatti. Go over to lastingpeace.org, click on the roadmap, and read about the stages there. Use them to work yourself through the stages. And we'll keep talking about what this means for you, for society, for business, for your relationships, for absolutely everything in between, even money. Thanks for joining me. If you have questions, make sure you send them in, and we'll see you next time.